Is using Better Discourse, preparing for the 2024-2025 academic year. We are again so excited that you are able to join us this morning here at Campus Compact. We're also very excited for your interest in our Better Discourse guide that was just released about 10 days ago. This morning, we are very proud to have most of our working team with us that will be giving you an overview of the working guide and then taking you through a couple of activities that you can utilize on your campus. My name is Laura Weaver, and it was my very great privilege to work with this working team as Campus Compact's Special Project Manager. I want to go ahead and publicly thank our team. Our team includes Lisa Marie Napoli from Indiana University Bloomington, Allison Briscoe Smith with the Greater Good Science Center, Nick Longo from Providence College, and Rachel Winslow from George Fox University. This amazing team of experts that are from across the country that do bridge building, dialogue, and discourse work were led by our fearless Sarah Drury, who is the Associate Professor of Rhetoric at Wabash College. And Sarah is going to go ahead and begin to give you all a brief introduction to our guide and then lead us through the rest of our activities this morning.
Thank you so much, Laura. And thanks to all of you for logging on today. We're absolutely thrilled that you are here and hopefully that you are ready to continue participating. So we'll be enjoying that today in this webinar. As Laura mentioned, my name's Sarah Drury. I was part of this incredible project team that worked with Campus Compact with Laura Weaver and Matt Farley at Campus Compact to create the back to school guide, Better Discourse, a guide for bridging campus divides in challenging times. And so during this webinar today, here's our team on the screen. During this webinar, we're going to introduce the Better Discourse Guide as a tool for campus and community stakeholders. We will then have a mini session that practices the sort of reflective inquiry that we encourage for creating better discourse on campuses. So please make sure that you've got a pen and paper handy, as this section will be participatory. And then our final section of the webinar today, we're going to break into small groups for discussion about topically focused action steps. So after a brief introduction, as I said, this will become a much more participatory webinar. We hope many of you will be able to have your camera and audio on, connecting and sharing with one another in small groups. Now, if today you're not in a place and not able to participate, or you'd prefer not to participate in that way today, you can stay in the main room and choose to reflect solo. That's always an option as well. So let's turn to an overview of the guide, Better Discourse, a guide for bridging campus divides in challenging times. So as many of you know, institutions of higher education faced a number of challenges last year relating to polarization and division. Campus stakeholders found themselves addressing protests, encampments, free speech controversies, and overall many breakdowns of dialogue across difference. In this moment, colleges and universities must look to their fundamental mission of educating the next generation of students to be participants in democracy, where they can learn to talk across differences, bridge divides, and ultimately address the pressing public challenges that we are facing today. We know that problems of polarization are not confined to colleges and universities. Many people across our nation are struggling to speak across divides. But higher education has an opportunity here. We can find new ways forward to reject cynicism and polarization by creating intentional practices and spaces for better discourse. So what do we mean when we say better discourse? We're talking about respectful, informed, purposeful conversation across lines of difference. We mean the types of debate and dialogue and deliberation. These are the kinds of talk that are productive, that promote a more robust and inclusive democracy. So Our team began work in June of 2024, so not that long ago at all, with the goal of producing a back to school guide for higher education that would assist campus stakeholders in strengthening, improving, and advancing better discourse. And as you can imagine, this was not a small task. In fact, it would be an impossible task if in June of 2024 we had set out to create the end all be all encyclopedia of civil discourse. So we didn't do that. And I think that's important to say. Instead, we saw this opportunity for our summer work as creating a living document that speaks to the moment that we find ourselves in looking at the fall 2024 semester. We worked to assemble resources that were available at the time of writing and think together about where we in higher education can continue to expand and grow in our civil discourse practices. To inform the guide, we conducted a field pulse survey that connected with more than 130 stakeholders in higher education from different institution types and representing different campus roles. We also interviewed service providers who are responding to the needs for programming and training. And we held focus groups to learn more about specific concerns on campus. All of this information, and this is all of this informed the Better Discourse Summer Guide. And so, as I mentioned, we'll be engaging with that guide today, but this is all part of a longer and larger project that will take place over the next 2 years. This guide can help inspire new work as well as connect to ongoing work that we hope to include in future iterations of the Better Discourse Guide and of the larger project. Our hope and intention is that with this first iteration, that this is the first iteration with more to come. And all of you, we hope, will continue to be a part of this process. Campus Compact is interested in learning from and assisting campuses in accessing effective and evidence-based tools, methods, and practices for better discourse. And this is all in service of the goal of increasing students' abilities to engage across difference, become effective participants in our democracy, and navigate challenging public issues in our time. So, as a quick walkthrough of the guide, which exists both as a downloadable PDF as well as part of a more extensive and soon to be growing interactive webpage, there are resources, information, and insights that will be added as the project grows. So the summer 2024 guide begins with an overview of the current moment and details the methods for surveying and research, as well as offering more key definitions and foundational values for practicing better discourse in higher education. The second section of the guide is entitled, Where Are You Starting From? And in this section, we offer an inquiry-based approach for campus stakeholders to examine your own practices as well as those across the institutions that you are part of. Our team very much was drawn to and promotes reflective inquiry and intellectual humility as essential for working towards better discourse. Once you and others at your institution have reflected together, then you may be ready to look at and take action. And so the third section of the guide offers approaches to better discourse and is formulated in an if then construction. So thinking about some of the pressure points that might exist and what are some of the resources or action steps available. The guide also includes a supplemental inquiry guide to work through asset mapping on your campus and other supplemental resources, as you can see in screenshots that are on our slide deck right now. So, oh, here they come. There you go. So yes, a number of supplemental resources. Again, this is all available for download at Campus Compact's website, and we'll be sharing the links in the chat. Laura just put it in there, and also have it available at the end of this webinar. On behalf of the whole team, I want to again reiterate that the list of approaches is not a comprehensive list, but rather a starting point. We wrote this document in June and early July 2024, and we were striving to come up with something that was both succinct, but also using the resources that were available. Now, we probably missed some valuable resources. We've heard about a number that we already intend to add, and we anticipate that as service providers and campuses develop more resources in the fall 2024 semester, that can be added to these materials. Our intention is to meet the current moment and provide supportive resources to aid us all in moving towards better discourse. And while there's a lot more I could say about this guide, I think we'd all rather get to the more participatory and generative part of this webinar. And so I'm going to turn this over to my fellow team member, Allison Briscoe-Smith.
Hello, everybody, and good morning or good afternoon. Really excited to have this opportunity to talk with you about this work. We also wanted to kind of provide an opportunity to really leverage what we heard from folks. So as Sarah mentioned, we had an opportunity to hear from a lot of folks about what's going on campus and what their needs were. And our team really deeply listened to that, and we heard a couple of things emerge, one of which was isolation. So feeling like people didn't have community or didn't know what was going on their own campuses. And the other was not knowing what resources were available. So the team went ahead and kind of took a look at what are the best practices in terms of better discourse, and also how to address these issues of isolation and just general not knowing. And we really decided that what we were going to do was focus on one of our main practices, which is reflective inquiry. So what we have put together are kind of questions that we hope that, first of all, that you'll do on your own, but probably more importantly, these are a list of questions that we hope that you will do in community, that these are questions that you could bring folks along with, that you could find members and stakeholders on your campus to ask these questions. So we wanted to have an opportunity to reflect and to practice and to put some of the reps in about how to do this. So for the next about 15, 20 minutes, we're going to have this opportunity. We have a 3-step process that's going to happen. One is that you're going to get an opportunity for just a minute to answer the questions that are going to come up on the screen. 2, we'll move you into groups where you'll actually have to meet other people and talk to them about those questions. So take a breath, you'll be able to do it. But this is actually one of the main points. If we take a look at the Mentimeter, people were saying things like, how can we have respectful discourse across our differences, which means we probably need to practice ourselves. 3, we'll come out of that large group and get a chance to kind of share the wisdom and the practices here. Okay, so for step 1, we're gonna have 2 guiding questions that we'd like for you to just take a piece of paper and just kind of think about for a bit. So we're gonna give you a minute and a half. I'll try to play some music. Actually, I won't, because that won't work. I'll hum loudly. You'll go ahead for just about a minute or 2 and would like for you just to write down, what does civil discourse mean to you, to your campus, and what's your hoped for outcome? So we're going to go ahead and start. Just take a minute. As you engage in that minute, please also remember to breathe. Take a moment. So just about a minute for these questions. So these are 2 guiding questions that we'd like for you all to reflect on and to be in conversation about. So what does civil discourse mean to you and to your campus? What's your hoped for outcome? We got primed for that. And what do you need? So as you get ready to go into the groups, we're just going to invite you to go ahead and, again, take a breath and a pause, because we're all engaged in this space of kind of taking a pause, an opportunity to reflect before we do this hard work. So take a breath, pause. We're going to send you off into these groups, and then you'll have an opportunity to come back in larger community as well. As Sarah mentioned up front, if you want to choose to stay in the main group, you can also do that as well. All right, so there's a button that will be pushed, I think. Yep, and off you go. All right, folks should be coming on back. And that's it. We have everybody, well, we have mostly everybody back. So we'd love to hear from folks just a little bit. Oh, I see already people jumping into the chat saying that was nice. We have just a couple of minutes to hear from folks as to how that went. Would anyone like to kind of jump in, and what came up? Was it Ange, did you have something? I know you put something in the chat, but now I want to put you on blast.
Sure, no problem. So in the group that I was in, I think to summarize, for us, like civil discourse meant, the ability to exchange ideas in, a space that is understanding, not combative, And really the outcome that I think we all had agreed upon was that after the discourse, we hope that there is additional understanding from on perspectives of other individuals, and also hoping that connections and relationships still remain and do not disintegrate after discussion.
It's a great definition that you all came up with. I'd love to pick from your group a little bit more. Just, did you all get a chance to speak about what you might need to actualize that hope? What do you think might be helpful to get people to be there?
We didn't get a chance to dive into that, but I'll have my other group mates also chime in. But I would say, like, briefly from my end, I think whenever we try to have an environment that is understanding, I think what's important is to be able to set those expectations out loud, so that whoever is perhaps a facilitator, leader, whichever name we want to call the person, the discussant, if you will, that they're able to bring the space together, bring the folks together to set those guidelines of discourse.
Awesome. Thanks so much. Great advice and support and place of resonance, I'm sure. I also see within the chat, speaking to the worries that students are kind of showing up with as well, the anxiety. Other voices we'd love to hear. What kind of came up in your connection quickly, both the definitions and the needs? Tommy, I see you unmuted. Go ahead.
I didn't mean to unmute. We just discussed kind of application, I think, of the ideas that we're hoping to engage in here on my community college campus. Sorry to unmute by accident. Thank you.
Sorry to pick on you there. That's all right. Thanks, Tommy.
That's okay.
This idea around actualization is actually the hope that we had as well. So the idea is, how do we actually support ourselves in thinking and reflecting what we need? Because so many of us, I'm not sure how many of y'all, but many of us on the campuses I serve have been in reaction mode. So the opportunity for us to be thoughtful and planful is our opportunity there. Was it Maria that also unmuted as well? My Zoom tuition's on fire, y'all. If I see you moving like to the unmute, I'm gonna get you. Go ahead, Maria.
Oh, sorry. I'm Manda, and for some reason I am under Maria's name. That's really funny. I was like, I think she means me. Yeah.
I mean you.
Manda, Southwestern University. Was just going to add that we talked at the very basic level of just needing more conversation, and that it's not our views that always. I think people are most scared that our views disconnect us, but the lack of talking about them doesn't mean those views aren't there, and may actually not be what's disconnecting us. And so just like we talked about, more engagement and more awareness, and hopefully leading to a more connected and proud community. And I would say that includes like student, staff, faculty, admin, because I think a lot of students would say admin aren't responsive, and that adds to this.
Definitely. I hear that also in the chat as well, the space, like we actually need time. We need time to talk. We need time to have the conversation, which also means we need some bravery and some support from our leaders to do that. Jesse, I see you're off mute.
Sure. And pardon me, I'm on vacation, hence t-shirt, and gorgeous view of Acadia. If you haven't been here in Maine, come. So for us, what we talked about was the ability to provide a structure and holding space, particularly for students who are in the ideological minority and for whom taking risks is more challenging, because they know that it can be just more difficult for them to be labeled and stigmatized. And then conversely, for the students who are in the ideological majority, the capacity to be able to listen and to see somebody's humanity and not assume that you know everything about that person because of how they vote. So cross-group empathy and cross-group perspective taking is really, really key. My tag team partner, Bird, said some brilliant things about being able to see somebody's humanity, etc. And I'm not even going to try to recap it because I won't do it justice. I think in terms of what we need, for us, it's very easy to think through, okay, what are the things that we do in the classroom and how do we sort of contain that? The reality, it's outside of the classroom for our students where things tend to be more challenging because it's not sort of, okay, in class, I'm difficult, I'm whatever, there are more challenges to speaking. It's really about, or I'm worried about my grade or how the professor's going to respond. On our campus, it's more about the social stigma. People saying, I'm not going to say anything because I'm going to get labeled and I'm going to walk across campus and this is what people are going to say about me. That for us would be tremendously helpful.
Mm-hmm. Jesse, thank you so much, first of all, for joining us on vacation and sharing the view. And also, as you can see within kind of the chat as well, people are really kind of picking up on, and we're kind of adding to the kind of conversation here. Jesse, you also spoke about what we kind of tried to hope to kind of create in this beginning kind of opportunity is that you framed, what is it that needs to happen in the classroom? Okay, so what are the resources that we can kind of do that? But it's not just in the classroom. The identities and the spaces that we hold, the power and privilege that we may hold in the classroom looks different once we get outside. So then how do we think about this in terms of campus climate? And then I also see here, Chris, you raised up, how do we think about this for us as administrators or for professors or faculty? So multiple kinds of layers about where an intervention or where our hope forward support can show up. How are we engaging the practices of, as we kind of articulated, better discourse? I also see an opportunity within the chat to think about what do we mean by civil? Can we go beyond that? So how do we think about that for ourselves, for our students, and our spaces as well? So you'll see as we kind of move into the kind of document that we're trying to kind of provide opportunities or think about, well, where are those kinds of pieces? Is it training in intellectual humility, Jesse, which I heard you kind of speak to in some ways? Or is it an opportunity for us to think about classroom resources? So you can see our task was big, but it was one that also, thankfully, as I hear from you lifting up with your partner in the space, Bird and others, we've got a lot of wisdom here. And so we really wanted to kind of address the isolation that so many folks were saying that they experienced and try to bring you all at least a little bit in community here and have this be a model or a means for us kind of doing this work. So we've got an opportunity to kind of go, again, we're taking you through how we got there, what we kind of created in this opportunity to kind of reflect. And this next part, I've reflected. Now, how do I move into kind of action? And how do I do this in a targeted way, whether it's classroom, climate, myself? So I want to kind of pass this back over to my partners as we kind of engage in the next step, which is a little bit more targeted in our focus. So I'll pass it back.
Thanks, Allison. And again, thank you to everybody who's sharing in the chat and sharing with the large group, in small groups. Really appreciate this community that has gathered today. We are going to move into the third part of this webinar, which will be the opportunity to break into groups that are focused on different kind of starting points or different places to look for action steps. And so this corresponds with kind of the third part of the guide, that if then section that I talked about. And so in this part of the webinar, you'll have an opportunity to connect, to ask questions, and share strategies from the wisdom that is gathered here. So each of these 4 rooms, breakout rooms, each one will be facilitated by a member of the Better Discourse team. And so I want to just run through these quickly so that you'll have an opportunity then to select the room that you feel like you're most interested and reflects where you are right now in thinking about the fall semester. So the first room focuses on getting started in this work. If you are new, if you're looking for on-ramps, if you're looking for low barrier to entry guides and programs to talk across differences, this is the group for you. So that'll be room 1. Breakout room 2 focuses on curricular integration. So if you're looking to bring civil discourse, better discourse into your courses, or working to train faculty, working to bring this across the curriculum, curricular integration is the room for you. Room 3 is co-curricular integration. So if you're interested in using Better Discourse in residential life, orientation, campus discussion events and forums, community engagement around civil discourse, Room 3 is for co-curricular integration. And then room 4 will bring together those of you interested in talking about civil discourse as an institutional priority. This might involve working on policies, connecting civil discourse work with DEIB work, DEIB, sorry about that, connecting with diversity, equity, inclusion, belonging work, and more. So if you're thinking about institutional priorities, room 4. And again, we will hold space in this main room for those of you who might prefer to spend this webinar time looking at the guide on your own. For those of you who are interested in joining one of these 4 breakout groups, I believe Laura is going to open the rooms now, and you'll have the opportunity to select into the room that you'd like to join.
Welcome back, everyone. Folks should be joining us here in about the next 20 seconds or so. We've got, it looks like 2 groups maybe still coming back, or is it, oh, you know what? It looks like everyone is back. Well, we hope that your sessions were very productive, and we hope that this has given you an opportunity to get to know the guide a little bit better. I am going to go ahead and put up 2 QR codes, one that has an opportunity for you to go ahead and download the guide to be able to utilize at your opportunity with your campus or personally. The next is also, we would love for folks to stay connected with us throughout the course of this project over the next 18 months to 2 years. And so if you'd like to go ahead and do that, you can sign up for our listserv using the second QR code. And through that, you also have an opportunity to please tell us what types of projects, what types of programs are happening on your campus. And we would love to be able to learn a little bit more about what is happening. It is also really important to remember that while going through an asset mapping activity and utilizing the guide with your campus, hopefully will help you uncover different resources and assets that you have on your campus. Some of you and some of your campuses still may want to utilize some of the service providers that we have highlighted at the end of the guide in the 3rd supplement. But, you know, utilizing and working with service providers can only augment and enhance the programs that you have on your campus, so that we really hope that through this activities that we've outlined here, you'll be able to learn more about what your campus is doing and be able to be supported more deeply through those service providers that we've highlighted. We do want this to be an iterative process, so please feel free to email us, to message us, or even to lift up here in the comments as we go ahead and close out our workshop, ways and things that you may still need from the guide, and that ways that we can further support and help you as we move through the rest of this project. If anyone would like to lift up any comments that were shared in their sessions, please feel free to unmute right now, or this is also an opportunity to ask questions of our esteemed panel. I see some great content here in the chat and some questions, and Sarah is go ahead and dropping in the links to the guide and to our listserv for you all as we close out our session today.
Laura, there was a question, just there were so many resources that got populated through our discussions and into the chat. So I know that I know we're in the midst of multiple kind of work and building out the resources, but hopefully we'll be able to kind of do, as someone just taught me, how to cut and paste and save the chat so that we can kind of get some of these resources back out to folks. But also just to say, it's nice to be in a community where those resources, that resilience, that capacity is really here and present. So we're hoping that you all saw that.
Yes, definitely. Thank you, Allison, for reminding me of that. We will ensure to keep and save our chat, and so that the resources that were uplifted here that may not be in this first iteration of the guide can be added and can be utilized as we move through this project. And again, please let us know how else we can help you. I'm seeing a comment from Jenna here at the end of the chat saying that she loves that it's open source. And yes, that was a very important part of this process for Campus Compact, is that whatever was created, we wanted to ensure that everyone can be able to utilize and access across all platforms. So we are very much looking forward to how this guide and all of the resources that we have here continue to be enhanced through this process. We also are very excited to be able to unveil and roll out some additional tools that will be created here in the next 2 years. I want to invite the rest of the team to share any comments if they feel like they would like to, about things that were going on in their breakout rooms.
I think I'll say from the Getting Started group, we were talking a lot about similar challenges faced, and a lot about coming together in new roles or new moments. And I really want to, like we're talking a lot about great resources. I do want to direct folks' attention to the reflection of asset mapping on the campus. There's a lot of feedback that we got in the survey was about how siloed people feel, whereas you're expressing a lot of common concerns that exist, and there may be lots of pockets of this work happening in different places. And so really encourage, if you've got a retreat or a meeting coming up where you might be able to share that of some of, you don't have to do all the questions, you can do a couple of the questions that feel most important for you. So that can really drive, I think, bringing people together in doing this work. So just wanted to share that as a last thought here from our group.
Thank you for that, Sarah. That's very important.
I recognize we're at time. I was just going to say, I appreciate the courage to share these struggles and yet at the same time supporting each other in similar ways. So thank you all for being here, and we're going to do this together.
And I think on that wonderful note from Lisa Marie, I think I want to once again thank everyone for being here today, and we look forward to continuing this journey with everyone.